Hi, today we're going to see whether we could predict video game sales on the basis of three factors: genre, platform, and price. Onto our data analysis. We made sure that we had three data sets. The first and second one were merged. The first one is data with recorded video game sales, while the second one is a list of price for games. The third data set is console price of different console generations. And first, we had to clean our data and tidy it, so we removed all of the empty values and only keeping games that were made in post-2010 to make it more relevant with current sales. We also changed the names of each column to match each other for consistency and easier time for merging. Now onto our EDA. This is our first graph, and we looked at launch price to see if it has an effect on sales. Overall, the data is very spread out with no obvious trend. There might be like a slight trend for higher priced items right here, but we get a better idea to see with a regression model. So right here you can see the regression line and that there's a slight increase when it comes to higher priced games, but overall we concluded that launch price does not have an effect on video game sales since the slope of the distribution of sales does not really differ that much. Now onto platform. We looked at it in relation to global sales. According to this graph, you could see that platforms for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 did the best in sales, which to us made it seem that the platform might have an effect on game sales. So to further understand this, we have another graph to gain a different perspective. So we could see here that this is the platform distribution. In this graph, most of the platforms' interquartile ranges overlap and that their medians are all pretty similar. So when we look at the original graph comparing it to this graph, the original Xbox 360 and PS3 did very well, but due to outliers, it is an unreliable attribute to predict a game's performance on the market, especially when taking into account that we are looking at more modern day sales. So when considering like our background information and what we know, platforms such as PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series get exclusive games as older platforms get discontinued, such as the PS3 and Xbox 360. Okay, here is console price distribution. We looked into if console prices had any effect on game sales, and due to the number of outliers, we looked into the medians and interquartile ranges of the price ranges, where the higher end consoles that cost around about like 500 to 700 to 700 to 1,000, we do have a higher median compared to the lower end consoles, and to further support this, we looked at the correlation coefficient, which is 0.12, meaning that there wasn't much of a correlation between the two factors. But something to note is that higher consoles do have a larger IQR, meaning that there is more variability in sales. So while there is some influence, console prices overall have no factor into changing anything. So onto the genre and the total and average. We can see that some genres do a lot better than other genres, such as action and shooter, but we thought that maybe the distribution might be skewed due to action and shooter, so we decided to have another plot to average the sales. And overall, there might seem that there's a correlation for shooters, but there's an inconsistency when it comes to genres to make it an inaccurate way of predicting sales, since it very much changes when you average the genre altogether. Moving on to individual analysis, we looked at each one individually and calculated the correlation between the individual trait when it comes to what we looked at. And overall, shooter games in the Xbox 360 platform came up as the highest correlation factor between everything, but only came up as 0.16. This is not high enough correlation for us to conclude that there's a reliable way to predict game success, but it does indicate that genre and platform might have the highest effect on game performance overall. We learned that the pricing of games have little effect on games' performance and sales, while genre and platform might have some effect, but not enough to be significant. And lastly, we're looking onto the future and analyzing that. Based on all of the information that we have gotten from our data, we believe that it shows the game success and how a game studio might have to spend more money on the production of the game, advertising, and the appeal to their target audience rather than focusing on a specific type of genre or platform of the game overall. Thank you.